You're listening to Entrepreneur Encounter, the podcast where soft skills meet real talk for creative business owners who are building with purpose. I'm Dana, a Pinterest marketing strategist and agency owner helping wedding pros and creative entrepreneurs get seen without burning out.
And I'm Sarah, a business and team strategist who helps small teams and podcasters communicate clearly, lead with empathy, and grow sustainably. Together, we're unpacking the messy, meaningful side of entrepreneurship, from boundaries to burnout, leadership to listening, so you can build a business that actually fits your life.
So you've been running a business for a while now, and something just isn't working the way that it used to. Maybe it's your offer, maybe it's your process. It's probably the process, but maybe it's the whole direction you thought you were heading in the first place. And something needs to shift, but every time you think about making a move, there's that tiny little voice in the back of your head that says, what if I blow everything up trying to fix it and make it worse?
Yes, and that's the tension that a lot of creative entrepreneurs sit in. You want to adapt, you can see the pivot, but you're terrified that moving too fast or in the wrong direction will cost you more than staying still. So before we jump in, and if this is already the kind of conversation you want more of, we have a free gift for you. It's called the 20-minute clarity map. It's a quick, practical planning tool to set meaningful priorities and the soft skills to make them happen. You'll learn how to pick 3 goals that will make the biggest impact. You'll pair each goal with a soft skill to boost follow through. You're going to define simple, realistic actions you can actually complete and stay consistent without burning out. The link is going to be in the show notes, so go sign up and we'll see you in our inbox.
Today is about how to pivot without panicking. We're talking about the difference between thoughtful adaptation and reactive change, and how to actually tell which one you're doing.
If you're a business owner who feels the pull to change something but isn't sure where to start, how fast to move, or even how to bring your team or even just yourself along for the ride, this one is for you.
Here's what we're going to cover today: the difference between thoughtful adaptation and reactive change, how to assess what actually needs to shift and what doesn't, how to communicate change without creating panic, and how to protect trust whether you have a team or you're flying solo.
I want to start here because I think this is where a lot of people, entrepreneurs, business owners, get overwhelmed. They think that pivoting is difficult. They think that if they pivot, they're going to have to change everything. But it's either you change something or you don't. But there's a difference between changing something that's broken and changing because you're scared, frustrated, or even bored, which is hard to admit, but it's true. I mean, we get bored sometimes. We get frustrated. We're scared, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to pivot. You just need to kind of take a step back and see what's going on. You can be driven by fear, comparison, or external pressure. Everyone is doing this. You might see that, a business owner that's in the same space as you is doing a specific thing and you think that's what you should do. Or if you haven't heard from a client in over a week, or you see that a competitor just launched something new. So what you have to do is look at the data and the patterns, such as I've noticed that this is working for 3 months. This part of my offer isn't landing the way I expected. So when you react, change happens fast, but when you're thoughtful, it can be measured and targeted. So how many calls you've had, how many downloads on your podcast you've had, or newsletter subscribers. I mean, the list can go on, but you have to be intentional about what you're doing.
Okay, so you've identified that something needs to change, but now what? That's usually the hardest part, I think, for me, is I recognize oh yeah, I need to change that. But there's so many different ways or avenues to go about it. And I want to make sure whatever change I do, I am able to stick with, no matter if it's a hard or light season. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see and that I've made is changing the wrong thing. You change the offer when the problem is actually the messaging, or you change the pricing when the problem is actually who you're talking to. So start again with the data and not your feelings. You have to separate facts from feelings. So, what do your numbers actually tell you? Look at conversions, retention, client feedback, revenue trends. Before you change anything, look at what the data actually says to you. Then you want to identify the constraint. Where is the bottleneck in this framework, workflow? Is it awareness, conversion, delivery, retention? You can't fix everything at once, and I have tried. You have to start by finding the one thing that, if improved, would move the needle the most. Then you want to separate the symptom from the root cause. So, slow sales might not mean your offer is wrong. It might mean your visibility is low, your messaging is unclear, or your audience has shifted slightly. And one thing that I have learned in my organic marketing experience is if I don't have a lot of discovery calls or networking calls this month, that means I did not do enough outreach 2 months ago. What the efforts and things that you do today, you will reap the benefits of that 2 to 3, 4 to 6 weeks from now, because very rarely is someone available tomorrow to talk to. You have to reach out, you might need to follow up, and then they get on your calendar. So if you don't have a lot of visibility in like networking and discovery right now, take a look at the data and see how many times did you reach out to people 2 months ago. If it was low, well, it makes sense that you're going to have low visibility. It has nothing to do with your offers and everything to do with your outreach. It can sometimes just be that simple. So then the last thing with the, framework that I'm talking about is ask about what's working. We talk about this in almost every episode. Besides communication, the next thing is asking questions, which kind of falls under communication. So just roll with it. But before you change anything, name what is working. Look again at the facts. What is working? This is going to protect you from getting rid of things that are actually fine, and it gives you a foundation to build from that is not starting from scratch.
When you were talking about outreach, when I look at the numbers, like my personal experience has been having conversations and networking, and that's how I would fill up my calendar. And that's how I did get clients when I was out there looking for clients. So I wanted to keep that part. Like if something is working and the numbers are telling you, then keep that part. Yes, I will create content to stay visible, to show face, to say like I'm still here, but knowing that's not necessarily, like, where I get clients, I'm not putting pressure on myself. I look at the numbers to see what's going on. So if I know, at least for me, the last couple months have been slow because I've had to step back just a tad bit, just kind of figure out my capacity since starting a part-time job. But now that I understand my capacity, I need to start outreaching more. And I started doing that. I started getting people on my calendar and having more conversations. And I think that's a great way to grow your business as well.
Here's a question to sit with. Is the thing you want to change actually the problem, or is it a symptom of something else? I feel like it's safe to say it's usually a symptom of something else and we're just too close to the situation. So taking that step back. I know time and time again, that's usually in my personal experience is what happens. I'm way too close.
Yeah.
And I need to take a step back. I need to lean in on my community to like
Mhm.
brain dump what's happening, what's going on, what am I stressed about? And it's usually they'll ask questions that helps me to evaluate other areas or things from different points of view and like, oh, maybe I need to work on something else and like then revisit this to retrack my trajectory, if that makes sense.
So let's talk about something that doesn't really get covered enough. It's how you actually communicate the pivot, because change that's communicated poorly can create confusion, and confusion creates panic. And that could be, you can panic yourself because now you're trying to do this pivot and now you may feel overwhelmed, or your audience is confused and you don't want to make that confusion. So that can be whether it's with your team or your clients. for your audience. And how you talk about change matters as much as change in itself. So, what happens when you pivot change when you have a team? You want to lead with why before the what. People can handle change when they understand the reason behind it. You don't want to lead with logistics. You want to lead with context. So, going into avoiding vagueness, you can say we're making changes, but there's no specifics. That's going to create anxiety with your team. Be as clear as you can, even if you don't have all the answers yet.
It's giving me like SMART goal vibes. Like the more specific you are, the more you can have those key performance indicators or
Mhm.
KPIs so that you know what you're working towards and or what you're working on, as opposed to, oh, we're making some changes. Well, that could be you're changing the snacks out in your mini fridge of your tiny office. Like that could, as silly as that sounds, what do changes mean? It can cause
Mhm.
anxiety, but it also just causes confusion. What changes? What do I so then if you do have a team, your team needs to know, well, how can I support the changes? Am I the change? Is it getting rid of me? Is it adding more responsibility? Is it shifting my priorities? I
Mhm.
mean, the vagueness opens up a surplus of ideas of what could be happening.
Oh, I hate vagueness so bad. I want to know. Like, I want to know. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm nosy, but I'm nosy in a sense. Like, I want to, be the fly on the wall and see what's really going on. You want to name what's staying the same. So, yes, you can say that things are changing and give the context and say, like, this is what we're changing. But then you can also state the fact that, okay, well, this is going to stay the same. The SOPs for this task are going to stay the same. There's no reason to change that. Or the values are going to change. Our commitment to clients isn't shifting. Here, what is. So you have to, depending on what you're talking about, is dependent on what's changing and what's not. You want to also create space for questions. When you're in conversations about change, it shouldn't be one way. You should not just be saying, oh, well, this is going to change. But if your team can't provide the feedback or ask questions or voice concerns, you're simply just announcing, you're not communicating.
I feel like that is a big difference. For solopreneurs or those that don't really have a team yet, you do still have important people in your professional life, stakeholders, if you will. These are your clients, your audience, collaborators, referral partners. It's like even without a team, it is very important to remember that you have very important relationships that deserve communication when things shift even slightly. It just helps keep the momentum, excitement going when you have things that are changing and having that reality check if you're worried about changing something and preventing a negative outcome. So, the internal conversation also matters too. And this is probably one of the more important. But how are you talking to yourself about the change? The story you tell yourself about a pivot shapes how confidently you're going to show up to execute. Something that I was just listening to prior to recording this when talking about sharing your message. You are, they framed it as you are genuinely doing a disservice when you do not share your message. And I'm going to challenge that to ourselves. We are doing ourselves a disservice if we constantly have negative self talk or saying that this idea is too crazy. It's never going to work. It is. It is. It will. It can. You just
Yes.
need to find the right tools, avenues, and community to help you make it a thing. And the best part is you don't have to announce everything right away. You can internally just work on it slowly behind the scenes, test it out with a few small people. Not every shift have to be shared publicly. And that is also an amazing thing that we can, most of these shifts are probably going to be internal and they don't have to be shared.
Exactly. I don't share everything. I'm like, I'm working on this. I'm just gonna keep this to myself. What? No, I don't want to share everything. It's so funny when people talk about. I mean, it's cool to share your wins online and say like, I'm doing this or I'm working on this. But sometimes you want to keep things to yourself. Like, it's mine. It's all mine. Like, I don't want to have to share it. Here's the thing about change. Even when it's the right move, it can erode trust if it's handled poorly. And trust is one of the hardest things to rebuild. So, what does this actually look like? to protect trust while you're in the middle of a transition. Your consistency and your behavior, your words can announce a change, but your actions have to be consistent with it. So if you're leading a team and you say, this is going to change, we have to change this, then be that leader that is in it with your team and take action on that. If you say you're committed to a new direction, but your behavior doesn't match, people will notice. Follow through on small things during transitions. Small commitments matter more than ever. Being responsive, showing up on time, doing what you said you do. These little moments will either build or break the trust. There's going to be some discomfort in the change. It's okay to say, I know this transition feels uncertain. Naming it doesn't create more panic. It actually reduces it because it validates what people are feeling. You don't really want to over pivot. I mean, obviously change is going to happen all the time, but constant change signals instability. If you pivoted 3 times in 6 months, the message to your team, to your audience, to your clients might not receive it as well. Like they might see it as they don't know what you're doing. Give the change time to breathe.
I think something like that on a personal level. So I just tweaked our after school schedule of like when you can get on screen and what things need to happen before dinner type thing. And my son, like it was day 2. And my son was like, this is boring. This doesn't work. I was like, you haven't even tried it long enough to see if it works. So any change, and this applies professionally, any change, whether it's a service, a workflow, outreach, anything that you change, you have to give it ample time to really work out the kinks, and you have to do it completely. You can't just do 3 of the 5 steps of this new process and say, well, it doesn't work. Well, you've only done 3/5 of it.
Yeah.
You have to do the whole thing for a specific, not vague amount of time. We implemented these changes. We are going to test this new workflow in its entirety for the next 60 days and then revise as needed. But you have to do every single step every day or whatever it's due for a long enough time to really get data to know if it needs to be revised or not.
Exactly. I mean, if you think about it this way too, if you're sick and you go to the doctor and get medication and you take the medication the second day and realize you don't feel better, but it takes time. Just a few weeks ago, I had an ear infection and I had to take antibiotics for it. And day 3, I'm like, it's not working. But obviously, you have to have your body like give it time to set in and all of that. So yes, if you look at everything that you do, it's going to take time. Things take time. It's not overnight. If you are willing to put in the work and this is something that you want to do, you're in it for the long run, keep doing it.
So here's what, if you made it this far, we want you to walk away with from today's episode. Adapting isn't impulsive, it is intentional. Before you change something, audit what's actually broken, not just what feels uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. We have to actually go through the motions to see if it's actually broken. When you communicate change, lead with why and then anchor to what's staying the same and create space for questions and keep an open mind. Don't get frustrated when people have questions. Trust with your team, your clients, and yourself is built in the small, consistent moments during a transition. Another thing that I am learning personally that kind of aligns with that trust being built is I am learning that discipline is better than chasing perfectionism. Those small daily habits, those small, tiny daily tasks are what build these big, amazing, wow, I made it moments. So there's our takeaways. And here's your challenge for the week. Take a few moments to identify one thing in your business that you've been wanting to change. And before you mess with it, touch it, tweak it, ask yourself, is this a reactive move or a thoughtful one? And really think about or look at what the data is actually trying to tell you.
Thank you all for being here with us today. If this episode resonated with you, just go ahead and share it with another entrepreneur friend. And as always, all of our information is in our show notes. Until next time. You can now follow us on LinkedIn at Entrepreneur Encounter.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at UR Rembert for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.